All right, I'm going to try to get through some more of these questions real quick. Now, the first one comes from boxerfencer. I had to paraphrase it to fit onto the board, so please correct me if I didn't do this accurately. He basically said, would resting 3 to 5 minutes while doing volume work to improve hypertrophy create and sustain oxygen debt? Now, it depends on the individual. It's relative to the demand imposed. So 3 to 5 minutes might be enough for some people. It might not for others. It also depends on what volume work is to that individual. For someone who generally does sets of 1 to 2, sets of 4 to 5 could be volume work. Volume work could be anything from 4 to 5 reps per set, 8 to 10, 10 to 12, 20, 30, 40, 50 reps per set, 100 reps per set, giant sets. So it really depends on what volume work is and what it is in relation to what that individual is used to. I'll give you an example real quick. Let's say you got an advanced bodybuilder, he's doing 1-arm dumbbell rows with a 200-pound dumbbell, he's going for 12 reps. It's relative to how much he can do, the amount of weight he's chosen to use. Now we take an average Joe using 200 pounds as well, relative to what he can use, doing the same amount of reps, and at the end of the set, the bodybuilder could be completely gassed, gasping for air. He did a set of 1-arm dumbbell rows. Most people would say that's less physically demanding and exhausting than a squat. Yet the average Joe who did relatively the same thing with a more demanding exercise is not as gassed. So it's relative to the demand imposed. The greater level of focus, intensity, concentration, and effort that goes into your set, the greater oxygen debt you can create. All you need to be concerned with is whether or not you want to train in an oxygen debt to reap the benefits of doing so or not. If you do, then what you want to do is more work than what you're used to in less time, less rest. If you don't, you want to take complete rest between your sets to be fully recovered to perform at your best, because maybe performance is important to you. So you have to determine why you're doing what you do and let that guide and influence the decisions you make in terms of how you choose to do things. But there's no amount of time on a clock that will determine whether or not you're fully rested or still in an oxygen debt. It's relative to the individual. So hopefully that helps. Now the next series of questions between the red lines here all come in response to the best bench press program of all times video that I did. The first question comes from boxerfencer. He said, isn't performance affected negatively on day 2 in reference to benching 2 days in a row? Now the answer, I don't know, maybe. Why don't you give it a shot and see for yourself? But also, that's not the purpose of day 2. The purpose, the reason why you would bench 2 days in a row, as it relates to this strategy, is to facilitate recovery. You gotta think about, like in sports, you can score a goal for your team to get a point, or you can get an assist and your team still gets a point. Day 2 is an assist. RewDowns said, I could see a similar template working well for a weighted chin, back, or bi program. This guy gets it. This guy understands that what he saw was an illustration of certain principles in play, and you can take those puzzle pieces and build a completely different puzzle. Iago Borges said, basically it's a light, heavy, medium template. This guy doesn't get it. No offense, Iago, but you don't get it. Not yet anyways. That was not what it was. That's an attempt to compartmentalize it, which devalues it and doesn't do it justice. What it was a strategy. And the term strategy comes from the battlefield. It means the art of the leader. It has to do with how you deploy your resources. Winning strategies require creativity and insight, the ability to see what others don't. You don't yet see it, but hopefully you will. TheHostileLife said, can this be applied to the other 2 big lifts? Yeah, give it a shot. I don't see why not. I mean, you might have to modify it a little bit for deadlifts because it's not too practical to try to perform overload eccentric deadlifts, but other than that, give it a shot. Michael Johnson, got to give him a shout out real quick. He said he used this concept to design a full program, and anybody can message him and he'll send it to them for free. So I want to give you a shout out real quick, Mike. That's fucking awesome. Thanks for doing that. Now, the last question comes from Nguyen. This is in response to me talking about why chin-ups are generally easier than pull-ups for most people. He said, would it be safe to assume that weighted chins stress your lats more by virtue of being able to use more weight? I would say it would be safe to assume, but not for that reason. Although, if you did use more weight with the chin-up than you do with the pull-up, that would be a contributing factor. But I would say the torque that is created at the shoulder from the external rotated position that accompanies using an underhand grip would stress the lat more. So that would be the reason, although the amount of weight you can and choose to use definitely needs to be taken into consideration. Now, whether you like this or not, whether you share this or not, whether you click the fucking button at the bottom of the screen that you're looking at, subscribe to the channel and support me or not, ain't nothing gonna stop me from continuing Because I've been doing. Continuing to provide the absolute best information you're ever going to find in your lifetime as it relates to training to build muscle, get stronger, lose fat, look better, perform better, all that fucking shit. Ain't nothing going to stop me from trying to empower as many people as humanly possible for free. And if you can't respect that, your whole perspective is whack.